The contents of this interview, or from Awake and Empowered Expo LLC from Ethan Fox and Flower of Life Center for Human Evolution, is for informational purposes only and does not necessarily reflect the viewpoints held by these organizations or individuals. Always consult with your doctor or health professional before making any changes to your diet, lifestyle, or prescription drug use. Please understand that you assume all responsibility and risk for the use or misuse of this information.
Welcome to Awake and Empowered Radio. This is Ethan Fox, and I'm here with Jeffery Jaxen. Today we have an exclusive interview with Eve Mormino, who will be sharing with us her work in Ashati. Eve Mormino is the founder of Zoetic Life and the first international recipient of the Grand Master rank of the Ashati Ascension modality. She is also an internationally known intuitive astrologer, energy healer, hypnotist, and speaker. Inspired by her parents, Eve began her passionate and exceedingly insatiable exploration of New Age, metaphysics, and self-development at a young age. Self-taught via books, life experience, and enlightening pivotal encounters with industry and non-industry personnel alike, she connected knowledge and skills on a variety of related topics.
I'd like to talk about the Ashati Ascension modality and give our listeners a brief background on that and what you'll be presenting at the expo concerning that.
Okay, the Ashati energy healing modality, it is definitely geared toward ascension and preparing the chakras and the energy bodies to be upgraded, as you may say. So it was channeled by Jerome Baudel, and he's out of, I believe, Sydney, Australia. And he channeled it, I would guess, within the 5 to 10 year range. I would say it's definitely a newer modality. And that's the background as far as I know from how he received, as you could say, maybe the technical aspects of how to use, apply, and pass on the abilities. Yeah. It's very unique. I don't know of many other modalities that are specifically for ascension. It does do other healing. That's definitely relevant, but it's all for ascension, but you can use it for other healing purposes.
Yeah.
So
do you think that was given now because humanity is ready to take that next step and that this is one of the tools for them?
Most definitely. It's not just about humanity, it's about the earth and all the other living beings and just earth as its own organism itself. We all contribute, all the animals and plants and elements that we interact with. Everything contributes to the status. And it's definitely raising the frequency. And the more light we bring in, the more it assists the earth in making adjustments as well.
Yeah.
So yes, definitely relevant.
The word frequency, we keep hearing that with a lot of interviews that we do, frequency, intention, and energy. And I know I listened to one of your interviews before and you said something to the effect of it updates your energy body and it, I have the notes here, it updates your chakra system, opens up your chakra system. Could you speak a little bit more on that?
Well, everyone has, for the most part, as far as I know, the same set of chakras or the chakra setup, makeup, disposition. And we're all, in a similar frequency as a group, as a global community. But when you update it, you're kind of restructuring the energetic grid that belongs to you, that you're responsible for in this incarnation. And when you update it, you could say it expands it, or it expands its ability to hold light, which makes it, you could say that the person transcends difficult situations quicker. And they pass through difficult times faster. They let it go. They let things roll off their back a lot more readily. They don't act out their negative emotions as much. They let them go and pass through the experience in an objective way, as opposed to acting out what they're feeling or thinking, which allows for more light. The quicker you get over things, the happier you are, and the more light you bring to the people around you. So when you update your energy, it's it's creating more dimension in you, more understanding, more awareness. So when you update your complexity, you're also updating your awareness to accept people as they are, accept situations as they are, and be okay. Be comfortable being uncomfortable in an uncomfortable situation, or being comfortable being uncomfortable, and understanding that you're just passing through this. It's just a phase and you have to take it for what it is. But there is a silver lining to everything. Right. So if you can accept the positive in every situation and just focus on that, you're bringing in more light and raising the frequency of the planet and the people around you. And as we hopefully can recognize, we're all connected. So the happier you are, the happier the people around you can be. And you can only be responsible for yourself.
Right.
So this helps you do that.
So as far as the attunements, could you speak on those? One of the interesting things that I saw in reading about that was it took 21 days for the body to be, the energy body to be upgraded.
So the 21 days is highly recommended that you do a meditation daily with the symbols that you're introduced to with each attunement. Not of the 8 attunements, not every attunement has its own symbol, but you are encouraged to still do self-healing every day. And anyone that's been through any, we could say, habit retraining program, whether it's hypnosis or AA or a diet or any major lifestyle change, it takes a specific amount of days to retrain your body and your mind to different habits. It's the same thing. You're updating, you're integrating, it takes time. Not to mention in that time with the self-healing, you're removing so many things that are not relevant, not necessarily negative. They're just not relevant, and you're behaving based on those patterns, thoughts, beliefs, and it gives you time to remove it, heal, restructure yourself, and kind of come to a new understanding of who you are. And every time you get an attunement and every time you do a self-healing, you're removing something and you're creating a new space in yourself for more light, but also to restructure and fill that energy with something healthy and beneficial. So it takes time. Yeah. And a lot of people do have a sense of, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be doing something right now. I equate it to maybe a child going away to college. You've revolved your life and your choices and your actions around your child being in your home, and now you no longer have to drive them somewhere. Or maybe when a child gets their driver's license, you don't have to tend to that need anymore. That need for that behavior pattern is gone. And you have this amount of time. Well, in this sense, with the attunements, you're thinking energy, thought energy, activity energy. So that physical and emotional energy is now available. And some people have a little bit of, what do I do? Well, you can relax for now until you fill that energy and redirect it to something else that you would rather be doing.
Yeah. Do some people have more cleaning to do than others, or do they take to it better than others, or is it an easier process? Everyone goes through it differently, or is it somewhat standardized and similar?
I see a lot of similar responses. I think I've described it as the first couple attunements is very similar to trying to tear apart very strong Velcro. It's possible, and you feel it happening, and the crackling, you feel that. Some people handle it better. Some people have a bring it on attitude, and every 21 days they want the next attunement. For myself, I did not go every 21 days. I took a little more time. I don't think it's because I had more. I think maybe I felt it more than, in an emotional sense than other people do. But it's really at your own pace, and you can decide to push through it.
Yeah.
So.
What were some of the people that you wear many hats as far as your bio is concerned? What were some of the people that influenced you, or some of the modalities as well that influenced you and brought you to where you are today?
I started a couple years ago doing Akashic record readings. And at the class, I read the book and then I took a class. And at the class, I met some other people that were similar to me, maybe a little farther along in their skill gathering phase, and they brought the word to me. They didn't know what it was. They'd never done it. It was just a strength for them when they do readings that they receive in words and they pass them on to other people. So I had to look it up and figure out what it was. So that's it was just by somebody else doing a reading during class, and that was it. They had a message for me. So.
Do you? I read a lot of Edgar Cayce, and I'm sure you've heard this a lot when you bring up the word Akashic Records. But do you think everyone has access in some respect to these, or is it more selective people are given access to teach others?
Well, Akashic Records is, you could almost say, a generic term. Okay. It's interchangeable with the Hall of Records, which is, I believe, a Christian-based term. I could be wrong. But it's also astrology is the physical, tangible, mathematical, scientific side of the Akashic Records, the physical expression. The Akashic Records are, you're basically reading the energetic imprint of everything from the table in front of us to the person to the cat, business, piece of artwork. Everything has an energetic signature, and that's what we're reading the life history or future of. And therefore, the records are accessible to everyone. You can use tarot cards, you can use astrology, you can use intuition, you can use the Akashic prayer. There's many of them out there, the different prayers. Anytime you're accessing information that is outside your immediate knowledge from this physical incarnation, you're accessing the Akashic Records. Okay. So Edgar Cayce, yes, prime example. He was asleep and accessed information almost as if he went to the library, pulled out the book, and read it verbatim while sleeping. So, and it was knowledge that he was not privy to. He was not a medical doctor. He was not a scientist. As far as I knew, he had no knowledge, no waking, working knowledge of biology, let alone human biology. So I'm sure he was eventually, taught many things. But yeah, anytime you're doing any work outside your immediate knowledge, you're accessing the Akashic Records.
Do you see a time where these records, or this information, I should say, would be used? It would be a commonplace thing for a scientist or a physicist or a math teacher to use to work on developing things that aren't currently in our awareness?
Very much so, and I would hope so, because more and more I'm meeting people who say, oh, I had this experience and I used to be very, very much rich in my faith, but now I'm more spiritual. Mm-hmm. And I use my intuition more, and I listen to my gut, or that little voice that never gets very loud, ever, it seems, but you never pay attention to it, even though it's so tiny and it's so correct most of the time. Right. Myself, I've used intuition to learn how to use computer programs and computer-like technology my whole life. I've always been really good at it. And I even developed computer programs intuitively. Mm-hmm. And the people that I worked with thought I was genius. But I really would just sit there quietly and think, oh, we should put a timestamp on it. And it just kind of comes to you if you let it, if you open up to receiving the information. Mm-hmm. Definitely. And I think in Germany in the 40s, they were using the Akashic Records to build perpetual motion motors, machinery. I don't know for sure, but I'm fairly certain there were scientists in Germany using the Akashic Records.
Yes, they actually came over in a program called Project Paperclip to the United States, and then they assimilated into the space program. And so the story goes. Then the space program was pretty much built by the Nazis, but yes. But yeah, that would be a prime example, I guess, of the power of that. Because in Germany in the 40s, they had some of the most advanced energy machinery and also aircraft. So do you think everyone has an intuitive voice, or not an intuitive voice, but an intuitive skill? Some are obviously more than others, but if everyone were to quiet down a little bit and listen to their intuitive voice talking to them, do they think they can gain an advantage in making their life a little easier or better?
Most definitely. If everyone expresses their intuitive abilities differently. Between you and I, we're trying to host a forum for people to learn about it. Other people simply behave intuitively, and they may come off as brash or insensitive or ill-timed, but for them, they're just behaving naturally, doing whatever calls them in whatever direction. Or they may seem, flighty, but you can't ask people to behave differently or speak differently or interact differently. If they're behaving intuitively, if you ask them why and they say, I don't know why I did that, they just did it. And that's just being intuitive with their behavior. I think some people act, some people speak or interact with people. I know when I'm doing what, some people would consider mundane, like maybe washing dishes. When I'm doing something very tedious or daily routine is when I get my intuitive flashes, something very procedural. So it's other people, when they go for a bike ride, they feel like they've meditated. They've cleaned out their system. I feel for me, I have to be around people and talking. So
that brings up another question as I'm listening to you talk. I listened to David Icke talk about the difference between your mind and your heart. And I would imagine the heart is also interchangeable with your intuition. But he said his experience was when he stopped thinking with his mind and started having his heart lead him and his intuition and his feelings, there were a lot of synchronicities and doors opened and things seemed to just fall in place. And his theory, or perhaps it's a theory of many people, was that your mind is made to make those decisions like washing dishes and how to wash the dishes and how to do this. But you're supposed to live from your heart and from your intuition. And the problem is in society, it's been flipped and most people try to live with their mind and rationalize things.
Yes, I would agree. And one of the symbols within the Ashati modality is directly connected with the heart chakra. It connects what I say is the decision-making centers, your solar plexus, your heart, and your third eye and or crown, or both, however you want to see it. And you can use the symbols similar to Reiki on any chakra you want. But this one specifically, when you go through the healing, targets the inclusion of the heart chakra in combination with the other two. So when people are leading with their heart, you will always experience a much more genuine response, even if it's a negative, even if someone says no to you. They can't respond to your negativity, or they can't respond negatively in a bad way.
Right.
They're being sincere. And you also allowed them to say no. Because maybe if you hadn't been leading with your heart, you would have pressed them and they would have felt compelled to do something they really didn't want to do. And that's say yes. So you'll also receive the no better. Because if you're sincere, then you know that they're being sincere and that they're not out to withhold something from you. So, if you check in with your solar plexus and you feel that you will survive whatever this choice is, and it's just a little scary, then you can move on to your heart. Is this good for family, friends, society, community, other people? And if it says yes, then you can continue on and check in with your head. Is this smart? Is this necessary? And if it says, no, it's not necessary, then maybe maybe you don't want to spend your money or energy in doing it, even though it's not a bad thing. Right. But, as long as it's good in your heart, then it's probably okay to do. Otherwise you might just be spending a little extra energy that you didn't need to do.
Yeah. That's the best description I've ever heard of it. So it's almost reverse. Instead of head, heart, solar plexus, it's solar plexus, heart, head. Yes. I've heard talk of, since humanity is coming into a new consciousness, or the planet, there's an 8th chakra that's developed. Do you know anything about this, or have you heard about this, or am I just completely off base?
Well, they're already in existence. It's just activating them. And there's many more up there, but there's also 2 below us that people don't recognize either. And then there's also your high heart, which is considered to be near your right shoulder. There are other chakras. There's other chakras throughout our body. And I think that they'll start to be accessed or put into use, and or at least recognized a little more readily. Because as we move from the third, which is where most of our chakras reside, is within the third dimension of, we could say, reality or awareness.
Right.
That's what we're working with right now. So as we expand that, it's similar to discovering new planets. In astrology, they had to add those. And when those planets were discovered, similar to when our chakras are discovered, we'll probably attribute their meaning and or purpose, use, or disposition, if you will, at that time of realization. But yes, there's many other chakras above us, and then, as far as I know, 3 or 4 below us into the earth, or our energetic grid as it reaches into the earth. And I'm not certain that I can speak to what they all mean, but I know they do work in sets similar to our current setup, and they connect also with their purpose and disposition to our current setup. So they connect back in what I would say is circles or cycles. The energy comes up and goes around back into the chakra. So they're connected.
Well, I'd like to know about, have you always been this way, like gifted psychically or spiritually, or were you born like this? Or, I mean, what's your history that brought you to doing this work?
I would say, definitely intuitive. You can also find some information on highly sensitive people. I am a highly sensitive person. I can pick up on vibes, and sometimes I even take on the emotions or even repressed emotions, and I will seemingly behave like the people I'm around. And so if they're repressing anything, whether it's negative or positive, if they're holding back, I tend to pick up on it. And this is kind of a newer thing that I'm noticing with myself, is I have to watch who I'm around and the environments that I'm around. And I've noticed definitely in this realization that I've always preferred calm environments. Yes, I love to dance and be at weddings where there's loud people and loud environments, and it's fun. But for the most part, I prefer a quiet environment that's very relaxed and calm and peaceful. I've always been intuitive, though I don't think I've always recognized it. And I believe everybody is, and they just don't recognize it. They don't actively participate with that ability within themselves, because everybody has it, and we know that. But we know that now. But I was also raised not under any religion, even though through my friends, I learned about different religions and was taught to just be nice to everybody, no matter what. That's all you have to do. It doesn't matter how they're treating you, because you know it has nothing to do with you. And if it does have something to do with you, well, then you need to figure that out. But just be nice, because they're clearly working through something, and something else is affecting them. When people act out, it's because there's something else pushing them. So just to be nice. And my mom taught me astrology from when I was really young. So starting there and understanding, you can think of energy as gravity from the planets. Scientists have said that we as inhabitants of Earth, feel the scientifically measurable effect of the gravity of Jupiter. It also helps our planet stay in its orbit. So if we're feeling the gravity of that, if the moon affects the tides, how on earth is the gravity of other things out in the cosmos not affecting us? How is it not pulling on our physical bodies, which is therefore affecting our chemical makeup and influencing us to behave in different ways? So if you start your existence at a certain time and place, even from conception, that's a choice point. That choice has a certain energetic makeup, because the chemistry, the physical chemistry, or the physics of it is affected by a certain combination of gravities. How is that not tangible or understood in a scientific frame of mind? That's how I was raised. Every energy affects it each other. You're just kind of bumping around, just like atoms, as they say. The little neutrons and electrons and I don't know. It's all bouncing off each other like magnets. So that's how I was raised, just to be nice. I try. Nobody's perfect.
Well, either from an astrological vantage point or your other work, do you think that as a world we're heading in the right direction? I mean, do you think we've turned the corner to where we're heading toward a future of higher consciousness on the planet, or do you think there's still a period of a lot of turbulence ahead of us and potentially we could go the other way?
I don't foresee us going the other way, but the turbulence will come similar with the Ashati and how you feel the emotions and the emotional behaviors and the patterns clearing away is on a grander scale. You're breaking up structures that are not healthy, but you've relied upon them so much that you don't even realize that you're behaving based upon their rules instead of nature's rules or the nature of the cosmos rules. I think we're doing a huge return to living based upon natural cycles. And you can see that in the Uranus square Pluto going on in astrology. The Pluto is the masses, but it's also about the secrets and the hidden things. And that's what's being uprooted. So there is going to be turbulence, but it's because we are at the turning point of the return to what some say is the light or the lighter side or our natural way of being.
Do you have a time frame for when you think we'll see a more enlightened society out in the open and mainstream?
It's going to take a while because some of the structures are so deeply ingrained that we feel we can't live without them. We can't function as a global society without them. But when the natural processes within the capacity of the human body and human mind meet and therefore replace the physical structures that we created to get us to this ability, to this point of being able to be so connected. And I don't mean just technology, but there's so many infrastructures that are not necessary. I think that it will be a couple hundred years, probably 2300-ish. But that doesn't mean that we're not making progress now. Significant progress. It's taken a lot to get us to this point. Think about when the credit cards were introduced. How they, you had to have a piece of paper, and then it took days for even the transaction to go through because the paper had to go through the mail. Now it's instantaneous. You see it on your bank statement. So, when you move money from one bank account to the next, it's there instantaneously. But that's because it's not real. So once we escape that way of behaving, a little bit at a time, it will take generations because we've created this infrastructure just the way it is. We thought we needed it. We were told we needed it, but we are more than anything we've been told we are. We've been taught to fear.
I know I'm going to get a little personal here, but so I know from when we met, which was not that long ago, actually, your life has gone through a lot of changes, your personal life, and you know a little bit about my history and how a few years ago my life went through some dramatic changes to where I had to completely start over in a new direction. Now you haven't maybe started over an entirely new direction yet, but what I want to do is offer some advice or guidance to our listeners as to, because a lot of people, when they go through turbulent periods in their life, they think it's a bad thing, or they get cancer and they think, why is God punishing me and putting me through all of this? Why did my boyfriend leave me, or whatever, It seems to me, from my own personal vantage point, but it's my vantage point, I tend to look at every challenge as a good thing that's leading me to something else. And so since you're still it seems like in the midst of a lot of those changes and heading in this new direction, and Ashati kind of came in the middle of that for me as well. I went in a whole new direction and started doing entirely different things. I'd like a little bit of your personal experience as to what it's been like, and any words of wisdom you can give people who are going through turning points in their life.
You are completely capable to handle this life. You're equipped. You have this natural abilities, skills, talents, tools to transcend anything going on. And it just starts with recognizing the good of what's going on in a situation. And that's all you have to start with, is to calm yourself and find the positive. Because if you can do that, then you can keep going in that direction all the time. And don't look at the negative, because if I think about the things that have happened to me within the past year, even less than the past year, I can easily look at the negative and say, oh, this is happening, or oh, that's happening, oh, my finances, oh, my relationships. But then I look at the other people around me and the other things going on around me. I have a job. I have my health. And some people don't have those things, but they have other things that I don't have. We all have a positive aspect of what is in our life. And if you just take out the negative for a moment and just set it aside, and you look at all the good things, you'll probably notice that your life is amazing. It really is. Just look at the positive things, because 5-10 years from now, you're not going to remember what your perspective or viewpoint or belief was about everything going on in your life. You're only going to remember the friends that were there for you, or the pet dog that you had that was always fun to play with and always there for you. You're going to remember either your mother or your father or your daughter that was there for you and just made you happy just by doing whatever she was doing. Even if she wasn't supporting you, she made you smile or laugh, made you happy. So there's all these good things that can be looked at. And we try so much to analyze and understand why the negative things are happening, but they're not really happening to us. They're happening for us. So that later down the road, when somebody else has it happen to them, you can be there for them and say, this is what you need to do. One of my good friends lost her job. I said, get home, and while you're in this yucky mood, fill out the unemployment stuff now, because it's not fun and you don't want to have to do it on a sunny, nice day when you'd rather be outside. And right now, you just lost your job. So just go and do the yucky stuff. Get all the yucky stuff over with at once, because everything is up and down. And when somebody else is down and you're up, you want to be able to help them understand what they're going through and what they need to do to get through it. And that's why we're here, is to help each other. So if you don't have these negative experiences, how are you going to be able to connect with anybody else? And that your experience will never be exactly the same. But that's why you have more than one person to interact with and fill in the gaps and fill in the misunderstandings or the questions. So focus on the positive, because that's all that really matters in the long run, in keeping yourself happy. And that's the only thing you're going to remember anyways.
So you're going to be giving a lecture and also teaching Ashati 1 at our expo, right? Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little about what you're going to talk about, what you're going to teach in the classes?
It will be about the energy itself, the modality in a technical sense, and we'll be teaching about the application of the symbol, what you'll be likely to experience as you go through the 21 days of healing, and what you can expect if you continue with the path, and how you integrate the energy.
What kind of results have people been getting? I mean, what will a person notice, if anything at all?
Well, they'll notice a lot more space or available capacity for their energy and even their mental energy. At first, you may experience a little grogginess or Crankiness, because you'll be mentally and emotionally tired, because there's a lot of subconscious work going on as you release these patterns. But in the long run, if you continue through the whole modality, as there are 8 attunements, you'll find a return to your true self. Because what you're releasing is patterns that are no longer relevant for you. You may have picked them up indirectly or directly through any interaction of any situation or person. So anything you've learned along the way, possibly even from past lives, you're letting go. So you kind of have to restructure and re-recognize who you really are from possibly before you were born. So I say that it is very much a return to your true self, because as you ascend, you cleanse and you return more to your spirit self, your higher self.
Any last words of wisdom for our audience?
Stay connected to your guides. Stay calm. When in doubt, just slow down. There's no rush to do anything, and follow your heart. If it doesn't feel right, then don't do it.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today and for this interview, and we're looking forward to having you at our expo this October.
Thank you, Ethan. I look forward to it.